We're going to be talking today about that kind of a performance mindset that you've got to have in order to succeed, in order to make it through any kind of a battle that you've got. Go to lancewallnau.com/gold medal, because we're going to be covering the most important parts of this 40-page training I've been doing on what makes an athlete a gold medal performer and what you could take from that to be a gold medalist in your own challenging circumstance. lancewallnau.com/gold medal. You're going to love this show. It's going to be a great show today, a great divine appointment for somebody out there. I think I got this. I got a level 10 state of mind going on now. I've been thinking about this. As a matter of fact, I just did a program last week with a group of inner city men. And when I got done talking about level 10 Mercedes, they said they want to do a level 10 men program.
Wow.
I mean, all they did was talk about level 10 men after that. I thought, well, it's like the Lord ministered to me and said, well, you know, just because you're saying this stuff, it's familiar to you, but many people haven't ever heard this before. Many of you have never heard this. You know, you can live your life at a low level. You got the inheritance, the possibility, the potential of like the level 10 life, but you live it at a level 5 simply because you don't know that a 10 is possible. And what does a 10 feel like? Take your best day and evaluate, why was that a great day? If you could bottle it and give it to your best friend, that level 10 day would be the day that you would want to have every day. But I'm going to suggest to you that your choices, your neurochemistry, a lot of factors you have control over may have contributed to that extraordinary day. And I believe that every day can be that, because I got this message. Strangely enough, when I was reading John 10:10, where Jesus said, I've come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. And the idea that I want to zero in on is transformation, according to the Bible, comes by a renewing of the mind.
Yes.
I'd like to say that all that renewing is supernatural, but I have to admit, common sense in history tells me otherwise. I was in the military, for instance, for 3 years. And I was in the military not by choice, but by force. I was drafted into it because my dad put me into it. I went to a military academy. And for 3 years, I was fairly traumatized by the structure, the discipline, the demand on performance and responsibility that came out of that 3 years of programming. But what it did do was it taught me that if you apply the right pressure in the right environment, you can change a person's behavior and you could shape their personality to a large extent. So I'm 100% a believer that the Spirit of God, according to the Bible, transforms you. But I think we've missed something, and we've missed the practical human element that goes into the shaping of a person, so that it really doesn't matter if you're Pentecostal. You could be a dysfunctional Pentecostal. You could be a dysfunctional evangelical. You could be a highly functional non-Christian, and that ought to really, goad you if you're a real true believer, because there should be something very, very special about people that claim to be transformed by God and are doing so as a witness to the world that it's possible. Now, I walked in my studio today, and I grabbed my gold medal performance workbook here because I was reviewing how the mindset of a warrior or the mindset of a lover actually is the radius of capacity that you've got in you. In the military, they could, train you to be the Marine. But nobody really trains you how to be someone who can have empathy and deep connection with other people. But yet that's, how many of you would agree that that's indispensable to being a parent or being a spouse? Well, this is the transformational training I'm talking about now. Now, I walked in today and Carl had done something on the board. That's my son. And it was some research he was doing on this area called field of play. Now, I had heard about it, but Carl's digging into this stuff. The author is dyslexic. And so when he's coaching people, he draws illustrations to get handles on what's blocking people. And his expertise, which is why I'm going there now with my son, is he believes People's self-concept has a lot to do with their performance. How they see and rehearse who they are and the script that they write on their own heart and their own mind has a lot to do. And there's a way you could redefine the field of play so that you could see what you are able to have command of. And you don't have to live life as a responder. You can actually live life as someone who's shaping the environment. So, Carl, take it away and explain to us the field of play.
Sure. So this model is taken from Todd Herman's book, The Alter Ego Effect, which I thought would be an incredible supplement to our gold medal performance in our level 10 curriculum. The idea is that when we're children, most of us tend to have an active imagination where we want to be Batman, Spider-Man, a fireman, or maybe we want to be a stone golem, something that's fun and imaginative. And so we start behaving in a way that's like those characters or like those archetypes. And if we extrapolate from that, what that behavior does, it actually changes the manner in which we're interacting with the world. It changes the content of what we're doing depending on the context of what's happening around us. So this is the field of play model. It's taken from Todd Herman's work, and it starts with this center right here, which is our core self. Our core self is pretty much going to be the same throughout our lives, more or less. You're born a certain way, you have a natural temperament, disposition, predilections, preferences, all those things that kind of get boiled down into a synthesis of who we are. It's not just our DNA, it's the things that have impacted us, that shape us, that mold us into the people that we ultimately become. So, above the core self is our drivers. Now, before I move on, Dad, I'm curious, would you mind sharing with the audience what the 4 core drivers are in the average person?
And this is going to be in your manual, the very essence of transformational life. But listen, I got 4 models in here that are like phenomenal. I mean, I got them from 4 different seminars. The drivers are those core sets of built-in programs we run. Significance drives. Some of you have an enormous need to stand out and be significant. Other people have a certainty drive. That is the necessity of getting command of all the little details and variables of life so you can control what's happening and get the outcome that you want. If you have a significance certainty drive, man, do we know your personality. But you could also be an uncertainty person, which I am, which is you thrive off of the creative moment. You like the absence of structure. So that absence of structure stimulates creativity. Uncertainty is for you, juice. And so we've got the certainty, uncertainty, significance, and then the 4th row comes in out of left field. But it's so real. It's connection. People that have a desire, a need, a deep psychological, physiologic drive to connect deeply and profoundly and empathically with God, with other people, with nature, with an animal, or even with their own soul. So those 4 drivers are the unconscious factors that propel you and create a criteria for your choices.
Excellent. Excellent rundown. Thank you for that. Yeah, so above drivers, in a deeper layer, we have our beliefs.
Now, in your illustration, is the deeper level going to the bottom, or is it at the top? Or are those different levels?
The outer layer. So when I say deeper, I mean we're actually looking at the more, expansive idea.
Okay.
So on the outer layer we'll get there, but on the inner layer, core self, which is usually driving your drivers are impacting your beliefs. And as we've seen before with the belief pyramid, right? At the very top, we have an opinion, which is superficial, and then beneath that, we have beliefs, which are a little bit stronger, and then beneath that, we have our core convictions. So the beliefs that we have are ultimately, realistically, going to impact the manner in which we act, which is the next layer, the action layer. So as you can see here, right, your core self is being driven by some psychological factors. Maybe it's an actual need that you had when you were younger that you weren't able to actualize or have. Maybe it's something that you did have an abundance of, which then impacted your belief that life is abundant. There is more out there. There's more than enough for everybody to have their fair share, and then some, that type of mindset. And so we act in accordance with the beliefs that we have, right? And so with all this, the final layer on top, field of play. Now, with this idea in mind, being synthesized down, our field of play is entirely dependent on the actions that we take. The actions that we take are dependent on the beliefs that we have. the beliefs that we have are in part impacted by our drivers, our psychological desires, needs, all of those things. And all of that is truly impacted by our core self. Extrapolating, we can change the field of play by changing our actions. We can change our actions by changing our beliefs. And one of the ways that we can do this is by potentially even shifting our perspective on who we are and how we show up in different situations. That's what Todd Herman's book, The Alter Ego Effect, is about, is how if we aren't just acting as ourselves, but we're acting as our alter ego, our better half, our actualized version, us operating at a level 10, it changes our beliefs, which then impacts our actions, which then changes the outcomes, the actual field of play.
Let me just point something out here, which is kind of interesting. I can remember several times talking about living by faith. What does it mean? Making this practical. So let's go back to the beliefs there. The beliefs level. And what's above beliefs? Action, right?
Action.
So I remember walking once. You were with me. I went into the capital at Canberra in Australia. And I went in because there's a fellow in there that told me I was going to be meeting with senators. And I brought Carl with me. My children have been on these wild adventures. And I'm going, oh, what am I supposed to do? He said, well, do what you normally do. I said, what's that? He goes, strategize. He didn't know what I did. He just had an image of what I did because seeing me up on a stage talking with a whiteboard. Now I've got 5 or 4 senators leaving session with a light on the wall that'll go up beep when they got to go in and vote. They come in and they look at me and go, what are we doing here? I was horrified, but I remembered something the Lord told me, that when God opens the door and you go in, you may not have any experience doing what you're doing, but act like you know what you're doing. The very acting like you know what you're doing, I don't know what it does, but it catalyzes in you something that enables you to show up the way you need to show up. So I'm sitting there saying, well, I'd like to talk to you about why we're together. And one guy blurts out, he goes, do you know, and he mentions a guy who I happen to have heard of through Mark Nuttall, a friend of mine. And he was a man who was responsible for mobilizing the entire Republican Party populist movement during the days of Ronald Reagan. The name was Paul Weyrich. And I looked at him and I said, yes, I do know Paul Weyrich. I know about him. I want to talk to you about that. God opened the door for the next 15 minutes. A fascinating conversation. We'll be right back.
High achievers don't wait for the perfect moment. They train for it. And right now, it's your turn. Gold Medal Performance is your playbook for mastering pressure, sharpening focus, and showing up at your best no matter the challenge.
Your dominion on the outside is related to your victory on the inside.
With Christ in you, you've already got what it takes.
You have to expand with the pressure. And God gives you grace to do that.
Go to lancewallnau.com/gold medal. That's lancewallnau.com/gold medal. It's time to live like the champion you were born to be.
And to be perfectly honest with you, had he not said that, I'm not sure what I would have said. I mean, I would have said something, but he opened the door. And the door to the conversation was, how do you mobilize the conservative movement in Australia? And man, was I ahead of schedule. I couldn't understand why Hillsong, big church, did not help the movement. I never could understand why you leave a Trump or a figure like that disconnected from the vast artery and power of the people of God who ought to be able to know the times and what they've got to do and to stand behind someone who they're praying into office. Well, anyway, we had a powerful conversation. But the point is, going back to Carl's model, sometimes you have to act like the person. Go back to the model, guys. Thank you. You have to act like the person you need to be in that moment. I coached state troopers once about how they handle their personal relationships, because their spouses were complaining that they were not getting any emotional connection. And I thought maybe it was the profession. What I found out from the men is, hey, we do a lot of work to ground our emotions so that nobody could see us being emotional, because the last thing you want at a traffic accident is Barney Fife, a nervous policeman. So they're stoic. They learn how to put on their warrior face. I said, well, you need to know when to take the warrior face off. Well, how do you do that? Smile, smile, twinkle in the eye, twinkle in the eye, stare at the nose, stare at the nose. When your wife's talking, that's your face. It doesn't make, just do it. The wives would come back and say, what a change in my husband since he's been to your program. The only thing that changed was they managed how they showed up. Go back to your model there for a second. Your belief has to be that you're capable of showing up the way that you need to.
Yep.
I think everyone ought to take acting lessons for no other reason, just to discover the range and radius of the elasticity of what you're capable of expressing. Now, the other way you do that, Mercedes, is, and this is how NLP people do it, if you've ever had to summon anger, like let's say there was an animal attacking your little girl, you would have no problem suddenly going into Hilda the warrior mode if there was an animal that jumped the fence and was attacking your little grandbaby, right? Even worse, you're in Texas. You can draw and shoot.
Yeah.
But the point is, if anywhere in your history you can come to a moment when you were that warrior, suddenly even the meekest person they have a neurological memory of what it was like to go into that feeling of when I was a warrior. And as long as you've ever been there once, you can go there anytime. Isn't that true, Carl?
You don't even have to personally have experienced it, in my opinion. Using the imagination, you can tap into that archetype. You can tap into that character. You can act as if you've been there without actually having to have lived that experience yourself, which is really impactful and really powerful.
And somebody might be looking at this, and I can't say who it is, but there's, I watch these shows, and I would, my Bible critic mind would go, well, where's that in the Bible? Well, the Bible says put on, be bold and be courageous, be strong and be courageous. What does it mean? Put on Christ is what Paul wrote. I guess it's to Colossians. Put on, therefore, tender mercies and affection. When you're putting it on, you're literally putting on like a garment in the Greek. You're literally clothing yourself. It's not you, you're putting it on, which means you may not feel like it's you, but you can access it, because if you're a believer, Christ the warrior is in you, Christ the lover is in you, you've got Christ the statesman, the king. There's access to what you need, and it's already on the inside of you. Mercedes, where can people go to get this training?
It's Gold Medal Performance, and you can pick it up at lancewallnau.com/gold medal. Or I thought we'd have a phone number. We don't have a phone number. You can just go to lancewallnau.com.
We used to have a phone number.
Gold medal to get a hold of it. It's a great training, teaching. We've got an amazing workbook. I don't know if I have a copy. We actually have DVDs in here. You can get a digital copy if you don't have a DVD player. So lots of cool options. But here's what I wanted to say, though. This is a really interesting model, what Carl's got on the board over there, because I think of it as like a renewed human. As I come in contact with Christ, my core self changes, then my drivers, then my beliefs, and my actions. And it's almost like the process of sanctification, the refining of like my core self, I think, begins to be transformed. I mean, Carl, is that fair to apply it to this model in that way?
I would say so.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be a semantic argument as far as the difference between your core self and your drivers, but when you do renew yourself in Christ, it definitely does change your drivers.
Yeah.
As opposed to there being that significance need for yourself, that significance need tends to translate into a significance for Christ,
Yes.
or to a significance for the kingdom.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, instead of living for me, like you're saying, instead of my selfish ambition, love Christ, like love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. So now things begin to shift.
Here's the point. In the 4 drivers, what we've discovered is significance can drive you. Connection can be driving you. Certainty can be driving you. Uncertainty can be driving you. Any one of those 4 overextended becomes a what?
Weakness.
Asset.
A weakness.
It's a weakness. I'm kidding. Yeah.
Any one. So if your significance need is overextended, as I can embarrassingly confess, then you crush the significance of others. If your certainty need is overextended, you make other people neurotic with your need to control things. If your uncertainty need isn't railed in, you create needless anxiety with other people where certainty was needed, and you created confusion. If connection is overextended, you're going too deep with the wrong people, and you're trusting people you shouldn't trust, and you don't know how to let go of people you need to let go of. And I feel like there's a bunch of people out there that fall into that final category because they're nurturers. They're people that naturally care about other people and don't know any caring overextended becomes a weakness.
It sounds like that's coming from a person with a lack of connection need. That's what that sounds like.
Well, no, I think...
Wait. Put in the comments what you think Lance's number one driver is. What do you think that is?
Well, I think...
I like that.
Connecting with my thoughts and feelings is very important.
As someone who has had the privilege of working with you for almost 10 years now, uncertainty, I think you really enjoy.
I do relish, and this is the why Kim Clement and I were so close. We both harbored a secret addiction for lack of certainty. It's kind of living in the realm of the unknown was always delightful.
VUCA is the acronym.
But I want to say that there are two on page 10, mind you.
Yes.
The two needs you can develop an addiction to. By the way, anytime you have two or three of those things tied together, you forms an addicting pattern. If you have an activity that gives you connection, significance, and uncertainty, boom, tick, 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 you've got a hook. And so you got to look at whatever you do as a consistent pattern. It's probably meeting two or more of those needs. But what I want to say in 3 minutes is the two new addictions that you can forge, which is probably a rare thing to do, but a Christian particularly probably sanctifies their personality in the field of play by these two things. One is by a commitment to contribution. It's a more complex word than serving, because serving is too simple and familiar for Christians, and it denotes the wrong kind of hierarchy. But contribution is the key word, and contribution is whenever you can invest yourself in the growth or happiness of someone else for their sake and not yours, it becomes a really powerful kind of catalyst. The taste of the joy of pure, authentic contribution, where other people receive something and you know that it was because of something you did, that is its own kind of endorphin. But the other one is growth, the growth driver, which is the need to become more, to maximize your own potential, to expand and enlarge. It means you're willing to embrace pain. You're willing to embrace uncertainty if you're certainty motivated. You're willing to embrace certainty if you're addicted to uncertainty. In other words, you'll pay the price to grow your capacity. And if you add to that contribution to other people, then it has a beautiful way of filling out who you are. I think we've got like around 40, what do I have here? 40 pages. I have it written here somewhere. There's 40 pages of notes that I have on this process of gold. The reason why it's called gold medal performance is because a lot of the Olympic, routines that are the mental rehearsal that Olympic gold medalists go through, as well as physical conditioning, there's a way in which the same thing applies. Even the Bible talks a lot about athletes and about runners and about Olympic metaphors, because the same disciplines that go into the winner's circle in Olympics is what goes. In fact, Paul, when he uses the word excellence in the New Testament, takes the word hyperbole, which is the root word for the shot put. It's throwing the ball beyond where you've ever done it before. That's what level 10 living is. And what's sad is you've got the ability, and you've never really discovered what you're really capable of. You're capable of so much more than you're doing right now. 46 pages of DVD, and 4 DVDs, 46 pages, 30-day guarantee. I promise you, this will convert chaos into clarity. You'll discover the keys to shifting your state from whatever's dominating you now to an entirely new one. You'll master the art of powerful personal connection, And you can instantly decode the behavior of other people just by understanding those 4 drivers. Bam, that fast, you can suddenly realize what's driving the person that you're with right now. LanceWallnau.com/gold medal. Mercedes, Carl, final thoughts? Take it out.
Oh, well, Carl just threw to me. Yeah, I think that it's critical. I mean, I think oftentimes the battle that we face most isn't necessarily the medical issue or the car accident or whatever the latest crisis is, but it's oftentimes in here. It's what you're saying to yourself. It's how you're framing things. And so, like we just learned in this episode with Carl, you know, if you can change, if you can reframe the things that are happening to you at a belief level, I think you become unstoppable. So I think it's a great teaching. One of our better ones. In fact, probably one of the most important ones we have out there.
Sweet. I completely agree. Thank you. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to share this. For another biblical example of this in play, I wouldn't go further than David in the Psalms. He had the drive to not be sad anymore, to not feel condemned, to not feel all that fear. And his belief was that God could take it off of him. He could remove that pain, that pressure. So what was the action that he did? He would sing his Psalms. He would actually pray out to God and say, my God, where are you? Help me in this. And that changed his field of play because of his actions, because of his beliefs, because of his drivers, all working in line with that desired outcome. So it's not speaking things that aren't as though they are, because that's the beginning of delusion, but it's walking in accordance with the potential future that you want to see manifest. And that's living at a level 10.
Walking in accordance with the future you want to see manifest? Excellent. Well, I want to see you guys manifest that level 10 unleashed mindset. LanceWallnau.com/gold medal. Check it out. You got a 30-day guarantee you can't miss. We'll see you again on the next program.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have,